Today we will reflect on SD 50.13, Nibbanadhatu Sutta, the discourse on the nirvana element. This is found in Itivuttaka, IT 2.2.7. And the theme is the two ways of viewing nirvana, or if you like, the two elements of nirvana. Of course, here we say we are viewing nirvana is from our point of view, from the unawakened mind's point of view. In today's study, we will have a good idea, hopefully, on how the Buddha and the arhats awaken, or how can we understand, according to our mind, our limitations, how can we understand the nature of the nirvana that they go through. Now we must always remember when we talk about subject like nirvana, that we are using rather difficult medium, that is language, to describe something which is beyond language. So we have to understand in a way, by way of a symbolic kind of reflection, understanding, in other words, what lies in between the words, between the lines, as they say. But it shouldn't be too difficult once you have some Buddhist background, especially if you do some meditation also. Now, first of all, we have to understand that the Buddhas, all the Buddhas of the past, present, and the Buddhas of the future also, technically, and the arhats, they all awaken in the same way. They all attain the same nirvana, so to speak. It's just like we wake up, everyone wakes up. So in a sense, everyone wakes up in the same way. You are either awake or asleep, so to speak, or maybe dreaming. But still, to put it very simply, the arhats and the Buddha, they are free from suffering. They attain nirvana all in the same way. There's no difference. And this is clearly stated in the Sambuddha Sutta. The only difference, of course, is the Buddha is the first arhat to arise in the world. He discovers the Eightfold Path, he declares it to others. In modern terms, we would say the Buddha is a kind of the first amongst equal, primus inter pares, in other words. So this is important to understand, so that we don't see the Buddha as a kind of a status symbol, or someone who has attained certain status and we are kind of lower compared to him. Later Buddhism, sectarian Buddhism, often sees it this way. They say, oh, the Buddha's awakening is still not complete. The arahats still have to awaken. It is totally wrong view, and we have to be very careful to reject such views. They're not found in the early texts, they are later innovations. Of course, you might say they're totally a different religion, if you like. And if you really want to awaken, you want to really know what the historical Buddha has taught, you've got to go back to the early texts. So that's the Sambuddha Sutta. And then we come back to the Nibbanadhatu Sutta. So here the Sutta talks about two kinds of awakening, or if you like, they're not actually levels or stages, rather they are two different times of looking at what happens to the awakened person, the Buddha, the arhat. The Sutta uses the word element. So if you like, you can see that these are the two elements of nirvana. Now here again we have another pair of words. So you got bodhi, awakening, and you got nirvana, so-called the state, if you like. Again here, in a sense, they refer to the same thing, but we use different words to show the timing of the event. we use the word bodhi, which is best translated as awakening when we talk about early Buddhism, to refer to that first point where the Buddha awakens to true reality, where he becomes Buddha. When we would also say bodhi in the case of the arhat, when he awakens, we can say that too, although technically we don't use, that word is not used so much in that way in the suttas. So, whereas nirvana technically refers to the last moment of the Buddha's life here, if you like. Here meaning the five aggregates are present as long as the Buddha lives. Once the Buddha passes away, the five aggregates, form, feeling, perception, formation, consciousness, all cease to exist. So that is to put it very simply. Okay? Right, so in the sutta, however, the word bodhi is not used, but the word Nibbāna is used. There is if you like, you can say first Nibbāna, second Nibbāna. So there is, the first is called the nirvana with remains, and the second one is called nirvana without remains. Here the remains, says, of course, refer to the five aggregates, as already mentioned. Another interesting point is this: sometimes it is said that the Buddha, or rather the first Nibbāna, is called nirupadi sesa. So the upadi is used. Okay, the nirvana with some clinging remaining, and then the other one with no remains of clinging. Of course, here it becomes a bit problematic because we know the Buddha and Arhats have no clinging, but here we have this word upadi, which is usually translated as clinging. Now, there is a possibility that at some point after the Buddha's time, when the suttas were transmitted, there's this confusion between upadi and upadi. They are very close, and often their meanings get confounded. It is more likely, I mean, if you want to be technical, the original term was upadi. Here upadi means substrates, and again substrates refer to the five aggregates, very simply. So if we think in that way, we wouldn't be wrong. In other words, in the case of the first nirvana, you have what's called upadi sesa, that there is this substrate, that there is this five aggregates still existing, still there in the form of the body and the mind of the Buddha. And when in the case of the Buddha or the Arhat was passed away, all this, what passes away or what passed away are the five aggregates. So, so we technically wouldn't say the Buddha dies, but of course it's still all right, conventionally to use a term, because from the way the world sees it, well, the Buddha has passed away. But technically, it is the five aggregates that disperse. They're normal. They are working in a way that it works for us, or it does not work anymore for the Buddha, so to speak. He has completely kind of attained nirvana, we say. Okay? So, in simple terms, those are the two terms: the Nibbanadhatu, the one with remains, or the Buddha is still alive, and the one without remains, remainderless, that is when the Buddha has passed away. So let's look at the sutta now. Now this sutta is a short sutta, but it's such an important one that there are around 35 pages of commentaries, A4 pages, so it's quite a lot of commentaries, so you are of course welcome to study them carefully in your own time. The translation is on page 181 of this present edition. The discourse on the nirvana-elements, IT 2.2.7. This was indeed spoken by the Blessed One, spoken by the arhat, thus have I heard. This of course spoken by the servant of Samavati, but then you have Kujuttara, Uttara the hunchback. Bhikshus, there are these two nirvana elements. What are the two? The nirvana element with residue and the nirvana element without any residue. Okay, the first one is called Sa-upadi, says Nibbanadhatu, and the second one is called Anupadi, says Nibbanadhatu. Now here I have translated it simply as with residue and without any residue. I've left the upadi untranslated, so we can, if you like it more fully, you can say without any residue of clinging, or with residue of clinging, or without residue of clinging, if you like. So here we have to assume that this word residue includes the aggregates. It's not a satisfactory translation, I must say, but if, on the other hand, if we say with remains of clinging, we might give the new person, the neophyte, to think that, oh, the Buddha still has clinging, the arhat still has clinging. So this is a difficult decision. Of course, if you're giving a talk, it's different. You can actually say, okay, this is how you translate it fully. The first Nibbāna, Sa-upadi, says Nibbanadhatu, means the element, or nirvana element, with residue of clinging, or residual clinging. And the final nirvana is the nirvana element without any residual clinging, if you like. And then explain here the problem with the two words upadi and upadi, that they refer not to clinging, not to the clinging aggregates of the unawakened, but to simply the five aggregates of the arhat. Now the Buddha continues, and what bhikshus is the nirvana element with residue? Sa-upadi, says Nibbanadhatu. Here bhikshus, among is an arhat. What is arhat mentioned here? And here is talking about the Buddha as well as the ordinary arhat. One whose mental influxes have been destroyed, all those defilements that come through the senses that causes the person to have desires, to have views, to exist, to be ignorant, no more there. Who has fully lived the holy life, that is, whose task is done, here the training is all complete, who has laid down the burden, so here all the suffering is gone, no more rebirth, who has reached the goal by himself, that's attained nirvana, through his own effort, without any external agency, not even with the Buddha's help, so to speak, whose fetter of existence has been fully destroyed. He will never come back and never be reborn. Who is freed by right knowledge, right view, understanding true reality as it really is. Now comes the key line. For whom the five faculties still persist on account of their non-disappearance, who experiences both the pleasant and the unpleasant, who feel pleasure and pain. All right. So here we have this key part of the definition. The five faculties still persist. Here the five faculties are, of course, our five physical senses. The five physical senses still work for the Buddha, the arhats. I don't think we can translate the five faculties here. Indriya here is referring to the spiritual faculties dealing with meditation, because after that there are the two lines say who experiences both the pleasant and the unpleasant, the pleasure and pain. So you have physical feelings, mental feelings. So in other words, the Buddha, the arhats, remember the story how Devadatta, or rather Devadatta and Ajatasattu planned to kill the Buddha, and they had people. Devadatta actually pushed some rocks down from a high cliff, and a piece of rock kind of flew and cut the Buddha's foot, and it bled. He did feel pain, so he does feel pain if he's physically hurt, and he feels heat. I mean, it's normal for a Buddha to feel all these things, otherwise he'd be like a robot. So physically the Buddha does feel what's going on outside, but of course doesn't react the way we do. He's able to face all this calmly, and also mentally he would rejoice or feel a sense of sadness, kind of something unpleasant towards things which happen outside. For example, if someone doesn't practice the Dharma, or some monks are not disciplined, the Buddha would kind of feel sad about it. Now, here again, we have to be very careful how we describe the so-called emotions of the Buddha and the Arhats. We cannot say that they feel exactly like us. Not exactly. Perhaps they're more calm, more professional, if you like. Kind of, they see something, they say, oh no, this is not good. Or they see the monks are very peaceful and practicing, they say, oh, this is good. And they have that kind of appreciation also mentally. So we're talking about feeling beings. The Arhats and the Buddhas are feeling beings in that sense. So the section 6 goes on, but for him there is the destruction of lust, the destruction of hate, the destruction of delusion. So there you are. They have all these kind of responses, not reactivity but responses of the mind, the body, but without any of the three unwholesome roots. No greed, no hate, no delusion. That's the big difference between the Buddha, the Arhats, and us, the unawakened. Okay, so that's the definition of the Nibbāna with residue, the first kind of Nibbāna. The second kind of Nibbāna, the Nirvana element without residue. The sutta says, and what bhikshus is the Nirvana element without residue? Anupati says, Nibbanadhatu. Here bhikshus, among is an arhat, one whose mental influxes have been destroyed, who has fully lived the holy life, whose task is done, who has laid down the burden, who has reached the goal by himself, whose fetter of existence has been fully destroyed, who is freed by right knowledge. And this whole verse here, repeated, you can see all in italicized. Section 9, for him, okay, this is the difference here. For him, all that are felt not delighted in, they become cool right here. So all these feelings, here feeling is a sanidoki for all the five aggregates. They become cool. Here Siti Bhuta. Okay? Of course you can use the word Nibbūta also, meaning they are completely still, no more arising. So there you are. Here we have a good idea that in the case of the final Nirvana, all these aspects of the senses are cool, they no more arise. These pictures is called Nirvana element without residue. So there you are. The differences between the two Nirvana. The first, the one who remains, the five faculties are still there, but without the three unwholesome roots, no greed, no hate, no delusion. In the case of the Buddha, the Arhats have passed completely away. All the activity of the five aggregates, the feelings are all gone. It's no more there. These pictures are the two Nirvana elements. Then the sutta closes with three verses, or two verses rather, right? Yeah, two and a half verses. These two nirvana elements have been declared by the one with vision, the independent who is such. Here in this very life is the element with residue, in which existence's leader is destroyed. Right? So this put in poetic form. The nirvana will remains, means that Buddha, the arhat, is still alive, but he's no more led on through samsara. Verse 2, section 12 actually. But in the hereafter, he is without any residue, where all existence cease, where all existences cease. Those whose minds are freed by direct knowledge of this unconditioned state have destroyed existence's leader. They delight in the destruction, that is the attainment of the essence of true reality. Those who have abandoned all existence, such are they. Or you can say they have abandoned all existences, such are they. Right? So, such are they, tadino, there's a very famous word. That's the way they are, awakened. Then the sutta closes, and this too was spoken by the Blessed One, thus have I heard. So, once again, we can see that two nirvana element, while the Buddha is still alive, the five senses are still there working, and the five aggregates are also there working. The five senses actually a part of form, and then there is form when they active, their feelings and so on. So this is in the case of the Buddha and the arhats are still alive. And the nirvana, that is, they are enjoying the nirvana with remains. Then when they pass away, all these faculties and the aggregates pass away. So to study the 35 pages of notes, if you like, or any part of it, and read the sutta again for a better understanding of the nature of Nibbāna. Let us close with a short reflection. Nibbāna is not something we can easily understand. We may know how it is defined, how the suttas talk about it. It is knowledge for which we must be responsible. In other words, to keep our minds open, to reflect on the nature of nirvana, so that in time our view of it becomes clearer and better and more full. Reflecting in this way is wonderful good karma. By the power of this good karma, may we be blessed with strength and wisdom and courage to aspire to stream winning in this life itself. And may we be blessed with happiness, health, and long life to study, practice and teach the Dharma for all who would listen, to change their lives for the better. By the same token, by the power of the three jewels, may those who care for us, who our loved ones who support us, may they be well and happy too. And those who are practicing the true teaching, may they too see the true teaching in this life itself. May those who are seeking, especially those who are lost, may they quickly find their way back to the true path in this life itself. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.